Attention please. This uploading is only for educational purpose. No intention to infringe copyrights. Learning English with subtitles. GPITRAL. Follow us.
Quite heavy.
Okay.
Not terribly feisty.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm just starting with a general overall exam. I'm just going to start with the face. I just want to make sure that eyes are nice and bright. So the mouth.
There's no technicians available to help, so Barry gets a hand from the film crew.
I'm going to let you have the head, actually.
Okay.
Because she's not really fighting, so. I mean, we've got a little bit of soft tissue swelling in that area, but I think it's more trauma that she has done herself because she's dragging the wing rather than her problem. I think it's kind of a self-inflicted thing. Although she's really heavy, she's quite thin. Like when you actually start feeling her, her keel is sticking right out.
There's no obvious injuries. Barry needs to dig deeper. The x-rays don't reveal much either. No breaks, bullets, or fish hooks.
The swan is rather sick, and it is, 15 years old. And from what I can find, I mean, I've never examined a swan before. They're not a native animal around here. They're not considered wildlife here. And from what I can find, they live anywhere from 10 to 20 years. We're 15, so maybe we're at the end of our life expectancy. I'm not quite sure. Other things to consider, though, would be we are quite thin, so this didn't happen overnight or even over the last week. This has been creeping up on this swan. And also because we never molt it last year, which was unusual. Once again, I think something's been building up in this swan. So my recommendation, I'm going to give Hope a call and see how she would like to proceed. Hi, Hope. It's Barry calling. So bottom line is the swan is really sick. I mean, he's not fighting me at all. I mean, I did everything basically by myself. Head is down, wing is drooped, extremely thin, did not molt from last year. X-rays are normal. He may be nearing the end of his life.
With me, there's never any question. If we have an injured living thing in front of us, I want to do everything I can for it. Do we know how to fix a swan? Not really. Do we have the expertise to fix that swan? Not really.
Outside Dartmouth Vet, the swan's concerned caretakers are keeping vigil.
She's been part of our life since she hatched in 1997. So we've seen seen her grow from an egg to a cygnet to a mature bird. So she's just like a daughter, actually, to me.
Barry's come up with a compromise.
Okay.
He's referred the swan's caretakers to a veterinarian who specializes in domestic waterfowl.
So the plan after talking to Hope was, I know the bird's sick and we can certainly, do what we can for it here, but I never say that I'm a bird specialist, especially for domestic birds. And so a classmate of mine actually works at another clinic in town, Dr. Dibley, and we're going to see if she can see the bird today or tomorrow, because that's what she does, is just exotics and pet birds. And so she may be able to help the swan out more than I can.
He's arranged for an emergency consultation the next morning. But the next morning, the swan isn't at the vet. In fact, she's right back where she began. Despite their concern, the swan's caretakers have come to a decision about her future.
If we bring her back to her natural habitat, which is the area that she lived in her 15 years, this is all she knows, and she knows freedom. So to confine her to a cage, it almost seemed cruel to us to do that without any promise of a better future for her.
She lives in the wild, but she's not wildlife. And she's not a pet either. Even Hope isn't sure there's one right answer for Junior.
When you introduce something domestic into that wild world or something from the wild world into humans' lives, it's always confusing. And I've really learned that there is no right or wrong. You just got to sort of do what you think is right. And those people thought it would be best for that swan to be free.
Come on, girl.
Oh, look, she's got
Yeah.
her there.
Yeah. That's the sound of a mute swan. They're not supposed to make any noise, but she does. If she wants to get your attention, she can make a noise.
Mute swans don't sing. An ancient myth says just before they die, they let loose a beautiful, mournful song. That's just a story. Layla and Doug are convinced this is how Junior wants to live out her final days. This tiny address on Canada's East Coast gets a surprising amount of mail. Its owner is so busy, sometimes the letters pile up.
I'm trying to get caught up in note writing and thank yous. We get a lot of letters from young people to tell me how much they love nature and love wildlife. I love getting letters from young people. And we get every age in between. We get a lot of letters from seniors, you know, handwritten and beautiful writing and telling me stories about experiences they've had with nature. And I love reading each and every one. What I'm not so good at is answering each and every one. They mean a lot to me, but it takes a bit of time to sit down and answer everything that's come through. So there's probably a good 6 months, maybe a little bit more here. Sometimes people have written me twice, and I'm just getting back to them for the first time. But hopefully people understand that running the rehab and trying to work for a living and trying to do so much that these letters mean the world to me. And I enjoy them when they come in, and they're put in a very safe place. And I eventually try and get back to them all. Although I have this wonderful letter from a little girl, and I can't find her return address. So it says, "To Hope." And over in the corner it says, "I am 9. I'm Kelsey. You won't know me because I live in British Columbia. I watch your show, though, and I wish I could be just like you one day. I love wildlife, and if any of my sister's stuffies gets holes in them, I sew them up. Also, I have 2 puppies that me and my family take care of. Once I fundraised to help endangered animals, the black-footed ferret. I'm your #1 fan." And it says, "I love wildlife. Animals rock." And I have a little bit of art here, too. I just want to say, "Hi, Kelsey. I'm sorry I lost your address. Thank you so much for this letter. And it really is nice to know that you care about nature and our wild world. And it's really nice to get letters like this. And don't ever lose your love for nature. Thank you."
Today, a barred owl is ready for release. But rounding it up is going to be a bit trickier than usual.
This is a great unit. It was originally intended to be a large mammal unit for bears and bobcats or whatever we happen to get. But we found it works really well for birds as well because it's got lots of natural trees and perching areas. The difficulty, of course, is that there's lots of natural trees and perching areas and places we can't easily reach. So it's great for the animals. They seem to do really well out there, but rounding them up in the end is proving to be a challenge for sure.
It's a game of hide and seek, where the owls got a distinct advantage. But Rebecca's done this a few times before.
Now, he's in a pretty clear area down there, so if Lee, if you want to go that way, and Krista, you want to come along this way, I'm going to go up the center. Do you want to take that? I'm going to get him from the tree to the ground, and then I need whoever's closer to come in with the blanket, okay? Okay, I've got him immobilized there now, but I need to gently bring him out to the edge. All right, do you want to grab the carrier there, Krista?
Is he holding on to that? Okay, I got my hand on it.
It's not just about catching the critter.
1 foot, 2 foot.
They need to make sure its feathers don't get caught up in the netting. The worst thing imaginable would be to render a rehabilitated bird flightless just as it's ready for release.
Let him get some feathers in there. Get your feathers in there. Put your wings down, and then just use that dark towel. Cover it right over. And hopefully that'll help him calm down.
Smoother than expected and faster too.
That actually wasn't too bad.
No. Well, that went fairly well, actually. He was pretty good. He just hopped branch to branch, and then we were able to scoop him with the net. So not nearly as bad as we were anticipating. I suppose it never is.
This is where they plan to release the owl, a couple hours from the rehab. But that's not the only big event planned at the park today.
We found this nice little park that looked like a perfect spot to do an owl release, and we pulled into the parking lot. We were getting all set up and ready to go, and we just mentioned to the people standing at the car next to us that, you know, if they hung around for a second or two, they'd see something really cool if they wanted to. And they responded with,
"You know what's really cool? They're getting married in 10 minutes.
Right now?
She's got an awesome wedding dress on."
turns out, right across the parking lot was the beautiful bride in her wedding dress, and we were speaking to the soon-to-be groom. Do you want something really cool for your wedding?
They're all from Saskatchewan. He's from Saskatchewan. She's from Nova Scotia.
This cross-country wedding is about to get a little bit wild.
It would be kind of a cool thing for somebody who wasn't expecting it, if we could arrange to make this release part of their ceremony.
Like right after they say, "I pronounce you man and wife."
That's what Allison did.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
It was really, really pretty.
that would be nice.
This is beginning to be a habit. Owls and weddings, maybe they go together. We're starting a new tradition in Nova Scotia.
Hi, what's your name?
Kim.
Kim, very nice to meet you, Kim. And it's,
Kevin,
hi, Kevin.
nice to meet you.
So, congratulations to both of you.
Kim and Kevin were planning a simple ceremony.
Just to make things easier so her family could be here, we decided to fly down and get married here and do the rest of our nuptials in Saskatchewan. She picked the spot. What do you have to say? Nothing?
No, I'm just excited.
She's all excited, yeah. Blushing bride at her age, unbelievable.
They couldn't have expected this.
Oh,
He's beautiful.
he's a barred owl. This is the most common species of owl we have in Nova Scotia, so we get quite a few of them. So
He's totally recovered now?
he is. He's 100% better. He's been with us for just about 2 months now. And
What was wrong with him? Yeah, what was wrong with
well, when he came in, he was what we call flat. He was starving and dehydrated and really underweight and thin. So he didn't have any physical injuries that we could find. So he's been in recovery for a while. We had to, force feed him when he first arrived. He wasn't eating on his own. So, and then he made a pretty miraculous turnaround. This guy, because he wasn't with us very long, nothing seriously wrong with him, we're just going to release him as we found him. So
Will he leave?
probably it's still a little bit early, so likely what he's going to do is fly up into a tree and sit there. Until it gets a little bit darker and he gets accustomed to the area.
He's beautiful.
So we'll just cover him up for now, and then you guys take it away.
It's their big day, and the owl's big day too.
Well, now, Kimberly and Kevin, you have certainly picked a wonderful spot to formalize your love for and your commitment to one another. It is the most intimate sharing of two lives, but with these vows, you cross a threshold recognized and respected by all.